The era of COVID protesting in Canada is officially over. During COVID, there was lockdowns, restrictions, there was mandates, there was desperation among so many Canadian citizens that drove them into the streets to protest. And a lot of great things came of this. A lot of Canadians connected and networked and galvanized behind this cause of stopping mandates, which of course had the culmination at the trucker convoy in 2022. And in the aftermath of the trucker convoy, we've discovered that we definitely do not live in a free country. This isn't a fair democracy, and there's a lot of work we have to do in order to fight back, and it can't just happen by protesting in the streets. But getting out to protest can definitely still be very, very effective. And tonight, I want to talk about what makes an effective protest movement and what does not, and generally what the next chapter of freedom fighting looks like in Canada.
I promise you, I will not let you down.
The trucks parked outside illegally should move.
Canada's Conservatives will meet our Paris climate commitment.
Enough with the woke. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I take that back.
To champion our conservative principles.
We are the party of law and order.
To call in the auditors. We haven't yet decided whether we're going to call for the government to impose a mandatory test or vaccination.
And we will win the next election. Canada must not ignore the reality of climate change.
Why weren't Canadians vaccinated in January and February like everyone else?
Welcome, everybody, to Controlled Opposition, episode 30. I'm your host, Greg Wycliffe. We have a very, very exciting show tonight. There's a lot to go over because there's these different convoys, or they're not convoys, they're protests going on. And there's a lot that's been on my mind circling this, and I want to kind of just lay it all out. We're going to be talking about the optics war, what the optics war is. We're going to be talking about, of course, what makes an effective protest movement and what does not make an effective protest movement. We're going to be talking about politics in general and how it actually works. And yeah. Oh, I'm also going to be kind of the bearer of bad news tonight. I'm going to be a little bit of a, don't shoot the messenger, but I'm going to kind of be an asshole tonight because I need to say some things that need to be said when it comes to what's going on in the movement, So this is, I think we'll just kind of just jump right into it. Maybe I'll talk a little bit first about my sort of journey into politics. I want to talk about this East-West convoy that's going on, or the East-West Save the Children convoy, and why I don't think it's really helping anything. I think it's kind of only just exposing people who think like us to more ridicule from the mainstream media. And based on some leaked conversations that sound like illegal activity, could be even far worse. And people are going to say, oh, that convoy is different, that leaked conversation doesn't have to do with this. Well, we're in a new Canada now ever since the trucker convoy of 2022. And that Canada, essentially, like I said in the introduction, it's not really a free country, guys. Like we're not really living in like the Canada that we thought we lived in. Okay. We're living in this weird communist Canada where the state does have a lot of power. The establishment does have a lot of power, and they can throw you in jail for seemingly no reason, or they can make up lies to throw you in jail. And this is important. It's like, it's sad that we have to play by their rules, but we need to recognize where we're at in this situation. And know the rules so we can not make it harder for ourselves, because today marks the 600th day of the Coots 4 being behind bars. Some of them, I think, still on remand, or all 4 of them still on remand, which is completely unheard of. If I'm speculating, I would say if the government, or if the RCMP, if CSIS actually had dirt on these fellas, on these 4, they probably would have went to trial by now and kind of exposed how they're these horrible people and blah, blah, blah. And all these charges are justified. But since it's been 600 days, I'm thinking they're trying to cover up their corruption. Right. And I sent out a tweet earlier this week relating to these convoys. I made a few TikToks about these convoys because things were fishy. Things didn't look good. And at worst, these convoys actually bring up the same smears that came up against the trucker convoy back in 2022. Because during 2022, there's so many lies that they tried to say about the trucker convoy. I'm sure I don't have to go over all of them. We were burning down apartment buildings. We wanted to overthrow the government. We wanted to do all sorts of illegal activity. So I kind of tweeted about this the other day. Funny how these sketchy Fed convoys show up just as political dissidents from 2022 convoy are being vindicated. You know, Jeremy McKenzie has been really vindicated so far. He hasn't passed all of his charges, but #HateGate has come out, obviously vindicating Jeremy McKenzie. Tamara Litch, Barber, they're going through their court dates right now. It looks like they're going to be vindicated. And also funny how these Fed convoys perfectly serve up the exact same smears that they levied against the 2022 convoy, which is doing illegal stuff and wanting to overthrow the government. If you remember in 2022, these were kind of the big things. They're trying to burn down apartment buildings. They're trying to like be violent with all this stuff. It wasn't true. And now there's a few things that have come up associated with these convoys. It's very unclear, honestly. These convoys they're a mess. People are saying, no, Greg, this one's okay and that one's not okay. Like that one's the sketchy one. This one isn't. And then there's this poster and then there's a new poster. And then it's like a poster they just made the other day. And it's like, guys, no one even opened Photoshop to make like a consistent branding for this so-called amazing protest that's going to save the children. This is a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And yeah, I'll start with my first point of like, this is the end of the COVID era of protesting. What I mean by that is, people were desperate when this protesting started against the lockdowns, against the mandates. And it was a scary time. Of course, that culminated with the trucker convoy. But now we see what happens even when we win with the convoy. Sure, they may have reversed the mandates and that sort of thing, but there's still people who are dealing with legal issues and things like this. And we need to be more organized is the point, because what characterized these COVID protests was the desperation and how it was kind of all just kind of thrown together. It was all kind of just like thrown together. Even the trucker convoy, there was a lot of organization, mind you, in that. Like there was people who were working every part of the protest going on, keeping it clean and tidy, making sure people were supplied, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of organization there. But generally, in terms of all the support that came to the convoy, there was no plan of, we want mandates to end. We're showing up to help out, right? And since then, you can't just because with this current convoy, it kind of has some of that sort of strategy of like, let's just show up and save the children. Let's just show up and save the children, guys. And it's like, well, save the children. Like, can you be more specific? Because with the mandates, it was drop the mandates. It was very clear. It was like brand new legislation or brand new rules, all about vaccine mandates, all about all these restrictions. It was obvious what specifically we did not want anymore. When you say save the children, there's actually a couple different things. One of them is get rid of the gender indoctrination. Another one is we don't want the kids to be vaccinated anymore. And the problem is, I have to explain that to you. The problem is anybody outside looking in doesn't know like what this convoy is about. It's very disorganized, and it's just characterized, I think, by that desperation and that sort of like that hype of we got to do something. We got to do something. And really, I talked about the next chapter of protesting. The next chapter needs to be more organized. But before I kind of go through all of this again in more detail, I want to tell you about my journey into politics and what I have learned, because I feel I have learned very, very valuable nuggets of information that will really help anybody navigate politics, because I learned all of this the hard way, okay? So I ran for those who don't know, I ran for politics in 2019 for the People's Party of Canada. And I learned a few lessons right away about the reality of politics. And that is, politics isn't like a popularity contest. Politics is a popularity contest. And similarly, it's not like a propaganda war. It is a propaganda war. And because of this, the messaging must appeal to the common man. Okay. Messaging of any political nature must appeal to the common man. And if someone's saying like, oh, Greg, politics isn't the answer. Politics isn't the answer. Listen, folks, a political protest is, any protest is political. Okay. I said the example on another podcast. If there was this big apocalypse tomorrow and everything went down to zero, there would still be politics in action. There would be different groups. There would be different factions who would be trying to organize for power and for resources against other factions. There would always be politics at play. So of course, these things apply, even if it's something outside of the realm of the House of Commons or even political parties. Okay. This is how politics always works. It's very much based on, I like to think of the high school hallway. I like to think of the high school election. The student council president. Oh, is it just a popularity contest? Like, that's not fair. Think about Trudeau, guys. It is a popularity contest. Think of Trudeau's propaganda. It is a propaganda war. That is so much what it comes down to. And that just kind of goes to like the next collection of things that I've learned about politics, which is the cynicism. You need to embrace the cynicism of politics if you want to understand how it works. And that is, and this is like not a fun fact, but it is what it is. 80% of people are medium to low intelligence, which means you need to dumb it down. You need to make your message simple, like I said before, and it needs to be easy to understand. And the other thing, embracing the cynicism, people don't care. Okay, people don't care. People don't care. Especially in Canada, they don't care. So the number one obstacle to overcome is that apathy. And the question is, how do we activate people? How do we activate people? And connected to that is the point above, which is, dumb it down, make it simple to understand. And then the other thing is after that, which is fear and anger motivates people. Okay. So people are saying, save the children. And they're saying, hey, if you don't do this, then, the children will be, something's going to happen to the children. And I do agree with that sentiment, and they're on the right track of creating that fear and that anger to get people to move. But the message isn't clear. Save the children, but like about what? Is it about the gender ideology, or is it about the injections, about the vaccinations? And you might say, oh, Greg, why does it matter? Just go save the children. No, like, guys, it needs to be clear. It needs to be something that people can get behind. It needs to be simple because, as I said, people are stupid and people are apathetic. Okay. So if you don't make it simple, then they're not going to care about what it is you're trying to push with your political movement or with your protest. And this is similar. People don't like to hear this when it comes to the cynicism of politics. The truth doesn't matter. Scoring points matters, and the narrative matters. And the thing with that is, the caveat there is the truth is still important, and the truth can still be very powerful. And people on our side, the truth is like the secret weapon that we have. We have the truth. We have the authenticity on our side, which really gives us a lot of energy and a lot of power. But when it comes to this conversation of speaking to the kind of the everyman, it's the truth doesn't matter so much as like seeing the narrative that people believe and trying to influence it in the right direction. Right. But these are kind of just some things that I've learned since joining politics, and it's definitely relevant to how these political movements operate. I think actually to drive my point home. Yeah. Let's bring up this one of these first tweets here. So this is from the event that happened recently. I guess it was a meeting in a parking lot of the hashtag Save the Children convoy. Here are some of the leaders, although I saw in another podcast that they don't have leaders, which, I'll get to that in a moment. But speaking of messaging and the messaging being unclear, let's just play this clip to kind of show you what I mean in terms how this is hard for the everyman to kind of understand and get on board with.
We stand for all humanity. We're standing here for the children. That's what we're here for. All
Apparently
children.
Colin has no sound.
And for Trudeau for treason, guys. Don't forget. We're not letting Trudeau off the hook.
You have to save the country.
Okay, so save the children, Trudeau for treason, save the country. There's a lot of different messagings kind of swirling around here, and I don't want to be too mean, but there's a lot to be said about professionalism. There's a lot to be said about looking good and representing your message. Because let's face it, folks, if you're not taking your protest seriously, if you're not going to like dress up and be serious about saving the children, then why the hell would anybody else take you seriously? Right? If you're not going to seriously have a clear message, for people to get behind, that's focused, and have a leader that's going to look professional and deliver the right message to the people watching, then why do you actually expect to get anything done here? Again, back to my original point, there's a lot of this kind of desperate, thrown together energy that's characterizing this convoy, that maybe it worked in the past when a lot of the country truly was desperate and we were able to hop on the trucker convoy. Like, maybe that worked at the time, but that era is over. It's time to get organized. If you have a political movement or a political idea or thing that you want to push forward, it needs to be more organized. It needs to be more structured. There needs to be more white collar work. And a great example of that is the Million March for Children. I like to bring that up because it does look professional. It does look good. Oh, let me change this. You know, they at least have like a nice website and this sort of thing. It looks like something that any concerned parent could get on board with. Okay, it's a lot more approachable, and I'll get back to my notes here of things I've learned about politics. But speaking of the leader things, because I saw one of the people there, Dr. Shoemaker. I should bring that clip up because it's also, but. I've learned in politics that psychology trumps everything. Okay. Psychology trumps everything. People don't follow policies. They actually follow people. People follow people, leaders. If you look at anything in history, any popular political movement in history, it wasn't because they had ideas and policies. No, they were following a leader. They were following some strong leader in one way or another. I'm actually thinking the exception to that is probably Biden. Was Biden really that leader? Or maybe it's almost like the idea of Biden was actually just being anti-Trump. It's like, instead of like following Biden, they were like, running away from Trump, which again, the psychology, it still proves my point that the psychology trumps everything. It wasn't so much about loving and following Biden or loving and following like democratic values, but it was running away from Trump. Right. And, actually that's something that's happening right now with Trudeau and Polyev, obviously. And another thing too, that I think is interesting is beliefs come before values and policies. Values and policies are obviously important, but it's really the beliefs that people believe in. Because here's the thing, we all probably have a belief that we want to at least take care of the environment and not pollute, right? But the problem is so many normies believe that it's climate change, and we believe that if we don't pay the carbon tax, that's why that the environment is going to be destroyed, because they believe that if we have to pay the carbon tax. So it's a very kind of important thing there. And again, it speaks to the messaging and the stories and the narratives that we tell people, not so much the truth, but the stories and the narratives that we're able to kind of share with people to kind of get them moving and get them excited about whatever it is we're trying to push here. I do want to take a quick moment to apologize to you, chat, because I've done a lot of live streams, and there has been so many times, a quick little caveat here. There have been so many times doing my show here where I've like ended the stream and I looked at the chat and I'm like, I missed super chats. I missed them. Like, I didn't read them out. I did not read out the super chats. And it's like, Greg, you had one job and you totally messed it up. You couldn't even read the super chats. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to apologize about that, because there's no excuse. There's no excuse for that. But I'm going to bring up a clip here. What is the optics war, right? What is the optics war? I know I'm throwing a lot of information out at you guys, but this is like a really important concept to understand, because the optics war in many respects, like people say we're in an information war. Fair enough. A lot of people call it now the optics war. And I think I'd agree with that characterization. Because it's not just about the information that people are consuming, but because people have short attention spans, and because people are kind of like so impulsive with the information that they consume, the information doesn't matter so much as how people consume it and how they internalize it and how they feel about that information. And is it entertaining? Is it captivating? How does it make them feel? And optics is kind of a catch-all to define kind of define that. It's the optics war. And essentially in the optics war, again, back to my notes, what is the optics war? Whoever looks crazy or low class loses, and whoever looks normal and attractive wins. That is the optics war, I think, in a nutshell. And I'll bring up the example of someone like Billboard Chris, okay? Because he's someone who has gained a lot of steam and popularity. And I think he's introduced a lot of normie parents into, or just normie Canadians in general, and in America, into just how crazy the trans movement is, okay? Because he has won so many optics wars in this respect, where there'll be Billboard Chris in public. He'll have his sandwich board on. He'll be talking like a normal person. He's well dressed. And he's saying, hey, like, I don't think children can consent to puberty blockers. And then there'll be this crazy tranny freaking out, attacking him, acting all demonic and insane. And then anybody who sees that clip, they will think, okay, you know, this crazy tranny is like, they're crazy. I don't agree with that person. While Billboard Chris isn't looking normal, he has won. I think that his ideas are probably the best ideas, the better ideas, right? And, you know, there was so many lies surrounding the trucker convoy, okay? I already mentioned it, the burning of apartment buildings, all these made up things. But something that I kept, and many others kept pointing out, was where are the clips of all this violence? Where is the clips of all these fires taking place? Because this is something you need to be aware of when you're part of a political movement or a protest movement. All of the bad clips will be used against you. All of the bad clips, all of the bad everything will be used against you. And that's all the more reason to be more professional, to be more organized, to have a leader, to dictate the sort of behavior and the messaging of your protest. And maybe we got lucky at the trucker convoy, but a lot of that kind of was naturally already there. Everyone who I talked to, I interviewed over 300 people there. Everyone was like, the mandates, get rid of the mandates. Everybody had the same message, and everybody kind of intuitively knew, the news sucks. These politicians suck. They're lying. They're going to try and make us look bad. So I think intuitively everyone was on their best behavior because they knew, thankfully they kind of knew and had this awareness of that's what the game was. So we had like a perfect storm there at the trucker convoy where people had the same message just because they knew, like, hey, I can't leave the country, can't go into a restaurant. Duh, I want the mandates gone. And then number three, hey, I don't like the way this government's operating. They're obviously going to try to make us look bad. So yeah, I'm going to be on my best behavior. And it was a perfect storm. It wasn't something that was necessarily planned or organized that well, but it manifested in a perfect way. It was kind of miraculous that there was no kind of unoptical clip throughout that whole convoy, or at least there wasn't any sort of explicit violence or any actually illegal activity. And that's why these people are being slowly but surely vindicated. These recent convoys, I'm sorry to say, I can't say the same. I can't say that this recent convoy is looking great, and people might be mad at me for showing like the worst of the worst of this current convoy going on, but kind of doing you a favor here, because this is how the media is going to work. If they wanted to draw attention to this convoy, they could just play these clips and make it look bad. And it's like that. Like, this is a lesson. This is a learning moment where we can move on past the COVID era of protesting, when things are randomly thrown together and there's no leader and we're all just kind of hanging out, drinking and smoking in the parking lot. And this is kind of the case in point to what I'm talking about. This is an edit that I think is put together by Edgy D here, friend of Controlled Opposition. Let's play it here.
I've been selling my soul, walking all day. Make democracy happen. All the time I heard the bullshit, man. There's infiltrators behind us. So I can sit out here and waste my life away. Drive back home and drive my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotta do.
Get the fuck out, you fucking bitch!
People like me, people like you.
God bless you! God bless you!
I live to just wake up and in that big tree.
The numbers so far from what I've been hearing are 3 million.
But it is. Oh, it is. living in the new world.
Yeah, so it looks pretty chaotic. It looks kind of like a mess. And you might say, well, Greg, how dare you share those clips? That's not fair. If I'm not mistaken, that is like the live streamers on the ground of this convoy who are trying to get the message out there. This is them putting their best foot forward. Is it not? This is them trying to get the message out there of their political movement or of their protest. It's not looking great. You're not going to speak to the everyman with clips like this hanging out there. You know, it's I won't do like a full breakdown, but it's like, who is the leader here? People are talking about all sorts of different things. This guy's got stains on his shirt. I mean, yeah, call me an asshole if you want. But again, if you seriously are trying to get people off the couch and excited, you want a normal, concerned Canadian parent, because there's a lot, you want to get them off the couch, maybe put a collared shirt on, maybe look like a professional, maybe look like you have a cohesive, serious movement going on. Because if you don't look serious, people aren't going to take you seriously. It's not that hard to understand. And again, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news here, but this conversation needs to be had. People need to understand this because we need to move past this into what's actually going to be effective, which I'll get to in a minute. But I do want to kind of like just drive this home here. Let's bring up this clip. So what you're going to see here is someone from this Save the Children convoy. Dr. Shoemaker. I've interviewed him. He seems like a respectable enough guy. However, he is here speaking on a podcast, and like right beside him, you got somebody who's just like smoking a dart with, he's got his long hair there, like just like kind of chilling out. Hey, we're here to save the children. This is not a good look. This is not a professional look. The goal of a protest should be moving as many people in one direction as possible, like the convoy. Maybe I actually missed that at the beginning when I described politics. Like that is, whether there's an apocalypse tomorrow, that's always kind of the goal, right? Is to have the large enough group of people moving in the same direction. And you need to be professional. You need to be organized. There's a lot of parallels between what makes a successful business or with what makes successful content. I think I wrote some of that down in my notes because that's something that I do, right? Is I make videos. I make video content. And in order to reach a wide amount of people, there's a few things that I have to do. I need to make the content easy to engage with. I need to make sure it has a focused message. I need to try and be professional and approachable. The content needs to be easy to digest. And it's the same thing with the protest movement. You want it to be easy to engage with. You want it to have a focused message. You want it professional and approachable. Because like I said with the other, the other truths, harsh truths of the cynicism of politics, that is 80% of people are of medium to low intelligence. People don't really care. They're not going to do it if it's hard, if there's a lot of friction or resistance for you to actually get engaged. And that can be avoided with the clear message. And my question for anyone who is part of this convoy of the East-West Save the Children convoy, why are you not supporting the 1 million March for Children? Or why are you not sort of because there is a protest for that coming up later in the month on the 21st. I don't understand why, there's a Save the Children, then there's the 1 million March for Children. There's just so much wrong. There's so much wrong with this convoy. Or it's not a convoy. It is a convoy. There's all these leaked conversations about illegal activity that has nothing to do with the convoy. And the strangest, most peculiar thing about it, and I've made a couple TikToks about this, so I won't reiterate myself. Or maybe I should. Yeah, maybe I should watch this actually, because I don't think I've uploaded this to YouTube. So I will play this quick. This is the worst case scenario with this convoy, and that is that it has been infiltrated by feds. That there are feds encouraging and egging people on to do or say certain illegal activities. But a note on that, since starting controlled opposition, I've found that some people are saying, oh, like this person's controlled op or that person's a Fed, this person's a Fed. And I don't know if it's because of me, but there seems to be a lot of people whipped up into like, oh, like, pointing fingers of saying who's this and who's our guy, who isn't our guy. And it's important to obviously have that conversation, and that's when the details really matter, right? When we're kind of sifting out through, who is our guy, who is not our guy, who is actually giving us something productive that's worthwhile, and who is not. And but the funny kind of rule I have for that is it matters, but we shouldn't expect to actually find out 100% for sure if someone is a federal agent or not. Because at the end of the day, we essentially just have to make the decision that this person is not bearing fruit for us, or this person is actually making it harder for us. Like, we have to look at the outcome of what this group or individual is doing and make a decision if it's helping us or not. Because I think, like, when it comes to sifting through the details of like definitively describing, like, yes, this person absolutely is a Fed, works for the Fed. That's like very hard to actually get down to that nitty gritty. So in general, when I see convoys like this, or one convoy, the East West Save the Children convoy, like, is it Feds or is it people who have been misled and they just have a very stupid approach? I don't really care, but there's a good chance, well, the people who have a stupid approach are very susceptible to being influenced by Feds, and for the Feds coming in and potentially muddying the waters and making it much, much worse for everybody involved, right? So I think that's kind of the important takeaway. Like, we're not going to necessarily find out for sure if these people or people inside or influencing them are Feds or not. But if you just look at the fruit that it's bearing, and if you look at the outcome, or like the fact that it's not a productive outcome, and the fact that there's like the clips of illegal, let me just play this clip to show, give you the example of what I'm talking about. I recorded this video a few days ago now, when I first heard about this convoy. Basically, this is the second video I made about it.
This is another warning about the East West Save the Children convoy. I highly recommend that people stay away from this and do not associate with this, as you run the risk of being arrested or worse. My name is Greg Wycliffe. I interviewed over 300 people at the trucker convoy based on politically trumped up charges. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on this stuff, but I certainly have a good perspective on what it is like to try and call out this government and how it relates to protests. The reason the trucker convoy in 2022 was such a success is because they tried to say that we were burning down apartment buildings. They tried to say that we were violent. They tried to accuse us of being terrorists. None of that was true. They couldn't find anything to pin illegal activity on us, and slowly but surely, all the different people at this convoy are slowly but surely being vindicated. With this East-West Save the Children convoy, that is simply not the case. The plan has been kept under wraps and secret, and there's been a leaked conversation that shares what their so-called plan is. Here's a clip.
There's a band of natives in Quebec that are planning on burning a bridge. I don't agree with necessarily that, but that is what I heard. They're planning on burning a bridge.
This clip alone is very incriminating for anyone who's associating with this so-called Save the Children convoy. Can you imagine if this clip was associated with the trucker convoy in 2022? The regime who wants to imprison people who think like us would have a lot to work with in terms of justifying throwing us in jail and that sort of thing. Remember, they already threw people in jail on trumped up political charges, but when they would have a clip like that hanging out there, this was part of the plan, that is very, very easy to criminalize people and throw them in jail.
Yeah, so you get the idea. That, so far with these convoys that are now running around, I guess one of them is trying to get people to come walk to the Parliament Hill in Ottawa. Unfortunately, there's clips online of people who are connected by a couple degrees of separation to these protest movements, and it sounds like weird illegal activity or weird stupid plans. So what's the outcome we've had from these convoys? Okay, we've had potentially incriminating conversations surrounding this convoy which in turn, the fruit is, okay, now the government has more to work with in terms of criminalizing anybody associated with the trucker convoy. And I made a second video about this, but I'll just summarize it here. I won't play another one, but essentially, it was actually Jason Levine, somebody who has been an independent journalist who has been following closely the Coots 4, following the trial. And he says, like, guys, worst case scenario, these convoys are going to jeopardize the trial of the Coots 4, before they even really get a chance to have a fair trial, because it comes down to the jury. And if the jury is influenced by the media popularizing all this weird shit that's going on or is associated with these convoys, that could totally screw them over. That could totally sway the jury member one way or another. And as my tweet said earlier in the show, isn't it interesting that these convoys, the fruit that they've bared so far, are literally the two main smears that came to us on 2022, which is they're trying to overthrow the government and there's all this illegal shit going on. And before I get into wrapping up the show and like where things do need to move forward and how we can be productive, I do want to talk about the sovereign citizen types in Canada for a brief moment. For those who don't know, there is a number of Canadians, and I call them sovereign citizens types, because there's various theories, conspiracy theories, whatever you want to call it, that kind of fall into the same kind of bucket or basket case, which is that Canada is actually a corporation, or we don't actually have to obey the laws because the Magna Carta or because of some other reason, or if you read something specifically about some sort of legislation, technically we're sovereign citizens and the government has no power over us, blah, blah, blah. And in the same category, speaking of one of these recent convoys or someone associated with one of these convoys, whatever, they're saying we can get Trudeau for treason. We can somehow invoke something to get the courts or get somebody to create a tribunal to arrest Trudeau. And it's all based on like, look at this PDF, look at this old piece of legislation, look at this little thing, and we're going to like shoot a missile through the Death Star, the whole Death Star will explode. This stuff is stupid. This stuff is stupid. And let me tell you, speaking of the truth, even if this stuff was true, politics is about power. Okay? Politics is about power. So even if everything that these sovereign citizen types are saying is true, it doesn't matter. Trudeau has the power. Trudeau has the police force. And as we saw at the trucker convoy, if he doesn't like you, he's going to make up shit and throw you in jail. We already saw that happen. And then you might say, Greg, well, what do you mean? Should we just give up? No, we shouldn't give up. We need to realize that it's power in numbers. Okay? It's the power in numbers of bringing people into the fold. That's why the convoy worked, because there were so many people. And, if we have this small group of people saying that we can arrest Trudeau based on this little like fine print on some like old piece of legislation, no, you just look crazy. You don't have the numbers. It's not a simple message either, right? Like no one's getting behind this because it's not a simple message. Like I remember this like years ago. Actually, the example is Norman Traversy. In July 2020, there was a protest, July 1st, Canada Day. It was like it was an anti-lockdown type protest. A lot of great people there. Archer Pawlowski was there. Mark Friesen was there. Tyler Russell was there. A lot of great people were there. Chris Semchuk was there. Gave a great speech as well. Shout outs to veteran Chris Semchuk. And Norman Traversy was there. And he gave this speech and basically said, it was very QAnon. It was very much like QAnon saying, hey, we're going to arrest Trudeau. I have the papers. I have the PDF. I have the papers right here. I'm going to go arrest Trudeau. And of course, that didn't happen. He put some papers through a mail slot, or they were received. This guy, Norman Traversy, raised $140,000. Norman Traversy raised $140,000 because he told people that he was going to arrest Trudeau. Nothing fucking happened. Okay, so that was a huge waste of time and energy and money, and it was based upon one of these sovereign citizen type arguments. Okay, so anytime that there's someone online saying that there's some angle that we can work to just make all of our troubles go away and make Trudeau get arrested, it's bullshit. Just don't believe it. Don't buy into it. And again, even if it is true, your plan's just not going to work. You know, your plan is just not going to work because there's not going to be enough people on board. And what I do say to these people, if you're so adamant that this is true, if you become a member of parliament, or if you become even like part of the municipal government, any amount of political power, then maybe bringing these things forth would actually have a little bit of like cachet and a little bit of value to them. But if you're just some random person who is like out there on the internet talking about these theories and you know, you only have like 200 friends on Facebook, no offense, but like it's not going to create any sort of momentum. It's not going to create any sort of movement to change anything. And, so I just think a lot of the sovereign citizen stuff is really misled. It's focused on like a bunch of little details, and it's never going to catch any steam. It's never going to catch any steam. Think of all the easy things that you could use to get people excited. Mass migration. What's happening at the National Citizens Inquiry. All that, like that's summarizing all of the horrible receipts and all the horrible things we saw during COVID. Like there's so many examples to get people more engaged in politics. And speaking of that, we'll get to wrapping up the show, which is like, what's going to happen next? So Greg, okay, Greg, you're so negative. What do we focus on moving forward? And I've been actually saying this since the convoy, and that is essentially, we do need to get professional. We do need to get organized. We need to start creating groups and organizations, and we need to do white collar work. We need to do boring work. We need to do actual work that you would pay people to do. And the money is there. The money is definitely there. What was it? Tens of millions that was donated to the trucker convoy. There's obviously a financial incentive that is completely coming from outside of the establishment to make change. And I mean, that's like a really good summary, right? Like, you know, what's going to be more effective? Getting a whole bunch of people running around with signs with not really a clear message, or maybe creating an organization who's all about focusing on protecting kids from these vaccines. You have a professional website. You have a small board of people. You start to have a sort of like actionable plan where you're putting pressure on specific politicians or specific groups or specific, you know, the College of Physicians or what have you, you know, creating professional messaging that's easy to consume, and you're just focusing, you're laser focusing in on that one topic. That could really make a change slowly but surely. There's a lot of other great examples. National Citizens Inquiry is probably the most outstanding one since the convoy. This was a very professional. Oh my God, I don't even know how many cities they stopped at. They interviewed hundreds of people, professionals, former journalists, like mainstream media journalists, doctors, embalmers, you name it. All of the receipts collected about the convoy, and it's professional and it looks good. And the fruits of that are a lot of very, very valuable clips, a lot of very, very valuable accounts and testimonies from people. And these can be used. These receipts can definitely be used to apply pressure on politicians, or to be shared with other Canadians to show them, hey, this is what happened during the convoy. And that's to what makes the useful protest movement. I would say that is one of the best things that we can hope for, which is good clips, good content, good organization that wins the optics war. Okay. 1 million March for Children is a good example. And you know, another good sign of that you're being effective in the political world, Justin Trudeau calls you racist, or Justin Trudeau calls you a homophobe. And that's what happened with the 1 million March for Children that happened last month. I think it was September 20th. They got a tweet from Justin Trudeau saying, hey, we condemn the homophobia that we're seeing. That's a sign that it's being effective. That's a sign that it's reaching people. If they're trying to smear you, that is a sign that you're doing something correct. And like I said earlier, 1 million March for Children, they're focusing on one thing: gender indoctrination. The gender indoctrination for kids. They're focusing in on that. They're laser focusing in on that one thing, and they are being effective on that front. And that is, I guess I'll bring it back to my notes just to summarize, but it's like, you know, being focused and having one singular goal for your protest movement is really important. Looking professional and approachable, being easy to engage with. Because at the end of the day, what the future looks like for the freedom movement, we know what's going on. We all know what's going on. We all know that we saw the authoritarian face of our government during the trucker convoy. We get it. People like us get it. And I'm seeing a lot of circle jerks. I'm seeing a lot of shouting at one another in our echo chambers, a lot of just kind of like sharing the same links with one another and freaking out. We need to create organizations, propaganda, movements, clubs, whatever it is, to start to get out of our echo chamber, to start to reach out of our echo chamber. The desperation doesn't help. The urgency is important. But when we're desperate, flailing around, running around Ottawa and Parliament Hill, we're not really changing anything, because everybody who agrees with those people already agree with those people, and 0 people are coming into the fold. 0 new people are coming in and having sympathy for what's going on. And there's the clip of the guy who's getting tased or whatever, and people are saying like, oh, this is like a huge. This is this huge sort of like injustice of this person getting tased. And obviously it's sad to see that. It's sad to see somebody get tased, and it's unjust, similar to what happened at the trucker convoy. But it's almost all for naught. It's all for naught, because if you had a more professional protest and a more professional organization and brand and an actual leader to stand up for this person and talk about how the injustice, see, then maybe we have something there. Maybe there's something to actually use that terrible thing that happened to this man and actually leverage that in the eyes of the public. Because without it, it's just some guy it looks like some crazy guy getting tased on Wellington Street in front of the Parliament buildings. Who does that help? It doesn't help anyone. And really, like, at its worst, this convoy here, if it even is a convoy, I don't know what it is, Truck Yeah 2.0, it literally is the worst kind of stereotype that the liberal media tries to levy against us, which is we are these backwards, like trailer park boys. We just share memes on Facebook that we haven't even fact checked, and we're just all like, scared and disorganized, and we look like trailer trash, and I hate to be that blunt about it, but again, what are the fruits? What are the fruits that we've gotten from this convoy? From what I can tell, what we've gotten is we've gotten a whole smorgasbord of the media to work with if they ever want to make us look bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if the media slowly but surely picks up these clips if they feel like it, just to kind of smear everybody who thinks like us. And this can be avoided. This can be avoided with more intention, being more intentional with the protest movement or with the organization that you want to start. There's a lot of things that we can do that can be effective. And it's going to take work, guys. It's going to take work. It's not just going to be the same old sort of, as I said, like that desperate energy of running out into Ottawa to try and get something done. Whoa, big super chat from Silverman and Buddy for $100. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for joining me on the show tonight. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground. I think the final message here is how important, organization is. Like, we really need entrepreneurs in the freedom movement. We need people who are going to grow organizations. There's someone who I saw say, no, organizations aren't in it for the people. And it's like, listen, man, if we're never going to be organized, we're always going to be scattered, and it's going to be easy for the state to crush us like a bug. And that's kind of what this small kind of flailing convoy in Ottawa looks like to me. And it's unfortunate, because there's a lot we have in common. There's a lot we can work together on, but it's going to take this sort of, actually, psych, I'm not going to end it yet. Something that's a problem that the freedom movement has is we're almost like too independent. We're like too independent. Like, you can't tell me what to do. What do you mean this organization has a leader? Like, why can't we all be the leader? It's like, no, dude, there needs to be organization. There needs to be some sort of leadership and intention. And this sort of like people, it's sad. People keep yelling freedom, and it's like there isn't freedom in this country. There's a degree of freedom, but it's like if you look up Hategate, look up what happened to Jeremy McKenzie, look up what happened to Artur Pawlowski, look what happened to Morgan May getting arrested for like gas theft. You know, the freedom in this country is a mere suggestion, and you know, walking around the street and yelling it, it's like freedom. It's like, what does that even mean anymore? You know, we need to look at this like the fifth generational warfare that it is. And we need to be very intentional with how we operate and how we try to be effective, because things are bad here. Things are bad and they're getting worse. And the desperate flailing doesn't help. We need to be intentional. We need to be organized. And we need to work together, and we need to be patient, and we need to kind of like bring it down a bit and look at the long term. Because I feel like too often people are like looking at just like the next couple of weeks, or no, this is it. This is the convoy. It's going to change everything. And it's like, no. This is going to take a long time to overcome this, because our institutions are rotten. They are rotten to the core. It's like there's like a termite infestation that we haven't checked for in like decades. Okay. And it's going to take a slow building of like parallel institutions, if you will, parallel organizations that represent our values and what we want. And along with that, it's going to be a rise of different leaders, I'm excited. I think as long as we can, you know, stay out of jail and keep podcasting and keep our voices active online and in the country, I think that the Patriots will win in the long run. We just need to look at this kind of moments as a learning experience. And I think it's very reflective of Canada in general. There's a lot of people who have never really engaged in politics. I know I was one of those people. And like, we're kind of learning about how politics works and how to kind of like operate and move and navigate it. Because it is hard, because unfortunately, Canadians are very good-hearted people, I think. I think we have good hearts. I think we have good intentions. And politics is gross. Politics is ugly. Politics is weaselly and snaky. And like, I'm kind of disgusted by myself sometimes. Like, I'm talking about, hey, like the protests are about clips and how you can use clips. But that's the truth. When Jeremy McKenzie got debanked by Scotiabank, he had a clip of the phone call happening of the guy on Scotiabank being like, sorry, bro, like we can't bank with you anymore. And I have no reason. It was like this crazy phone call. And I wonder if that clip didn't exist and go viral, would anybody care? Would anybody have even heard this story of Jeremy McKenzie getting debanked if there wasn't that clip? So I hate to sound like some jaded content creator, but the content is very important. Like the information optics war, having that content, it makes people care. It overcomes that apathy. It overcomes the, that major obstacle, and it gets people afraid and angry, and it activates them. It actually activates them to get them moving in a direction. And I think our job as patriots, because things are going to get worse in this country, we need to have the organization set up so we can catch those people. We can catch the normies who get politically engaged for the first time, and we can catch them into our organization or a group or a club to get them all moving in the right direction and say, hey, there's already a whole thing here for you. All you got to do is just fall in line, follow us. We're organized. We're professional. We're focused. It's easy, because that's what that's what the establishment does so well. They make it so easy for a normie to just fall in line and take your booster shot, right? So we need to start creating our own organizations to do just the same thing. All right, I've been talking enough. Guys, thanks so much for joining me on episode 30 of Controlled Opposition. Has it been 30 already? Amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, and guys, I am doing a live musical comedy show in Toronto. Very, very exciting. It's October 20th, 9 p.m. And guess what? If you go to Eventbrite, I'll put the link right now in the chat. If you go to Eventbrite and buy a ticket for October 20th, the first 10 people will get one ticket for free. So if you buy one ticket, you will get a second ticket for free. That's for the first 10 people. I'm going to put it in chat in just a moment here. But aside from that, guys, it's okay to demand higher standards. Thanks for watching, guys.